say, if you don't laugh, you cry. So I think we should try to, hopefully we can have a little bit of a laugh here today. So there's a lot of people in the audience here today, and I'm sure Dad would love to be up here entertaining you all. As Uncle Hal just said, my father grew up in the dirty 30s in a small country town in Michigan named Williamston. He planned to be a farmer, but fate led him to academics and later here to Sackville. Growing up with David Beatty as my father. When I was little, he would entertain me reading stories and acting out the voices. I loved it, and he would make me laugh. I can remember nights we'd be sitting in his study at home, and he'd be smoking his pipe, and he'd read me classic books like Jack London's The Call of the Wild, and Robinson Crusoe and Treasure Island and even Tarzan. Amazing stories, right? These are classics. And I would play with my toys or draw while he read, but I have to pay attention because he quizzed me every few minutes about what was happening. He loved to tease and torment us. If we had bare feet, he would chase my sister and I around the house selling fresh piggies, trying to stomp on our feet, on our toes, and we seriously thought he'd gone berserk. We thought he was lost it, and we really feared that he was going to squash our feet. Of course, him. He tried to overcome my fear of swimming by dragging me out, kicking and screaming, into the Northumberland Strait. He tossed me over my head into the water over my head. And this did not work. In fact, it only made my fear of the water worse. But I think I overcame it by taking swimming lessons at the Round 8 pool, or maybe in therapy, I'm not sure. Speaking of the Northumberland Strait, and this is unthinkable now, but for fun, he would dangle me upside down on my ankles over the railing of the ferry. Like that, right? And I don't know where Mom was when he was doing that. Luckily, he never did drop me. Every Saturday in Bay Verde, when I was a kid, he would take a load of their garbage over to the town dump in Molac, which we passed on the way over here. And I'd be at home, minding my own business, watching Saturday morning cartoons or something. And suddenly he would appear in the doorway. He'd say, "This is it, boy. Today's the day. I'm going to get rid of you." And I believed him. He'd give an instruct, and I trembled all the way. Well, he reminded me that this was our last day together. We arrived at the dump, and he'd throw all the garbage bags and stuff into the huge pit. And I would just stand there waiting for my fate. And then he'd show some mercy and decide to keep me for another week. What a relief. I'm pretty sure I developed some abandonment issues. I love telling these stories, and it's all good fun. It's quite a character, my dad. Mom and Dad were both teachers, a lot of teachers in the family here, tons of teachers in the family here. And every summer, we got the summer off. I can't even imagine how wonderful that would be to have a whole summer off every freaking year. Pack everything up and go visit our Murray Corner farmhouse for the summer. And we have this 100-acre farm property. I'm sure many of you have been out there to visit it. It goes right from the beach of the Northumberland Strait and up through vast fields. We've got a river, 2 barns, a little farmhouse there. It's a perfect place to grow up. We had horses, cows, pigs, barn cats, puppies, kittens, tons of kittens. They would just show up randomly like magic, like kittens. It was like a childhood dream, right? And in the late summer, Dad would hire a team of guys from Port Elgin to come and help him harvest the hay. They'd show up with big tractors and trucks. They're all sweaty, greasy, unshaven, hard-working guys. Real farmers, like something out of Mice and Men. And they had these big hay wagons. And my sister and I would ride around on these hay wagons all day while they baled hay. And then they would fill our giant barn full of these square bales. And these were just like life-size Legos. We'd go out there and stack these things up and build forts. And yeah, just like life-size Legos. My friend Jeff Roach would come over and we would climb to the top of the barn in the rafters and leap like 20 feet into these soft piles of hay below. It was so much fun. I can't believe how much fun it was, that we never got hurt. Dad loved to farm, and he sure did. He built in the garden all day, and he was famous in town for having crops that would appear before anybody else. He really knew the trick, and everybody wondered how he did that. And he made me do it too, weeding and digging up potatoes over the dirt with my bare hands, getting dirt under my fingernails. And I think every kid should go through this. It really teaches you hard work. Although I swore that I would move to the city when I grew up, I never have to do that. After farming all day, Dad would go on a long, long bike ride. Then after that, he'd go for a long run and then a long swim. He was so active, he ran something like 10 kilometers a day. He also loved camping, fishing, canoeing, hiking. He'd bring my brother, my sister, and I, and also my cousin Liam along. What a blast. We'd eat canned sardines. Dad loved kippers and canned sardines. He'd make popcorn on a pot over the stove, camp stove. And I should mention here that we gave a small portion of Dad's ashes to my cousin Liam. And right now, while we speak, he's climbing up a mountain in New Zealand to spread the ashes in Dad's honor.
Families all together on the East Coast, celebrating the life of my Uncle Dave. And I'm on this side of the world doing the same thing. And I brought a little memento to spread on this side of the world, which I understand he never made it to. And I guess all I can say is thank you very much for giving me a love of the outdoors, and you will be missed greatly.
Anyway, Dad would also go camping with the dog. He loved all of his dogs. There was Zeno, Chuck, Bess, and also Goldie. They would cruise around. You probably saw him going around in a big pickup truck around town with the dog hanging out the window. He also had cats. We had one cat in particular, Cinder, who I guess he originally found her behind the stove of Babe House when they bought it in the 60s. And that cat lived like 25 years or so, and we even had it when we moved to Sackville in 1990. He had crazy sayings he chants out to these animals like, "Oh, Bess, old bad Bessie Good, you're a lazy old cat." Say to the cat, just make all these crazy faces and say weird stuff like that. That cat was miserable too, by the way. Seriously, if you ever tried to pet that cat, she'd shriek and claw and bite you in the hand. But he loved her, And as I mentioned, she grew so old. I think by the end, she was just like this bony, furry spine, and she had like 2 or 3 sharp teeth. And I remember as a kid in Baber trying to take advantage of having a historian for a father to get my homework done faster. Rather than having to research or read stuff, I thought I could just ask my dad, and he could quickly provide me the answers I needed so I could get back to watching TV or goofing off. But of course, this quickly backfired on me, because, I'd ask him about like, the Louis Riel Rebellion or whatever topic I was assigned to, expect just a quick answer, get the thing done. But then he'd get all excited and take me into his personal library there, and he'd pull out 3 or 4 thick books and go on for hours and teach me in great depth about that subject, stuff you need to know about. He'd have it all down in a book. And I wish I could tell you how much I loved this, but honestly, historical documentaries or war movies with him, because, he would point out people or things that were only given a brief mention in the movie, and he'd provide the whole backstory on them. And then everything that was happening would just make so much more sense. I paused the video, and he would explain the backstory on these things, and it would add such a deeper dimension to the movie, and you'd learn a lot. My father was a terrible businessman. He grew all these farm crops, way too many for us to eat, and then he would just drive around town, dropping them off to people around the community, old ladies, just for free. He had this old antique tractor. I think it must have been worth quite a bit. And when he no longer used it, he just gave it away to the neighbors. Same with his truck. Rather than selling it, just give it away. He even let a local guy farm our land for free, and still does that because he's generous. He didn't really care about the money. Even when his colleagues at the university, other profs, went on strike demanding higher wages, he did not ask them for this. And he said, "Well, you paid me enough." I think he just loved his job so much, I think he was afraid to take it away. Over the years, so many of the students have reached out to me and told me how much he has influenced them and their lives, and what inspiration he's been to them. And, it truly lifts me up to hear these stories, it really does. Especially now that we've lost him, of course. You were really keeping his spirit alive, so I thank you for that. It's been very difficult for me living so far away out of home in Vancouver. I want to thank my mom and my sister and their kids who took care of Dad over the past few years. I know the people at the hospital, and of course the Drew took exceptional care of him as well. And I want to extend my personal gratitude to Dad's closest friend, October, who so faithfully visited him and spent time with him in his last days. That really meant a lot, Jack. It was hard to watch Dad decline. He always ate healthy food, almost obsessed with exercising like crazy, and none of that ever helped him fight off his brain disease. Although, he never got to the point where he didn't know who I was. They said that his brain was extra resilient, actually, because as a historian, he spent a lifetime, memorizing dates and facts and places and figures, and it actually strengthened the connections in his brain, which held off the effects of the disease. I think that's pretty cool. My childhood best friend, Jeff Roach, I mentioned him earlier. He recently passed away tragically and unexpectedly. And I came home for the service. It's back in March. While I was home, I actually had the chance to visit with Dad. A chance I wouldn't have had otherwise. And my wife, Fatima, was only a few weeks pregnant at this point. And normally, you don't tell people about pregnancy. But here, I had an opportunity to actually tell him to his face about the pregnancy, so I wanted to take it. And when I told him, a huge smile appeared on his face, and he looked at me in the eyes, and I said, "Dad, don't tell anybody yet." And he goes, "No," he agreed. And I didn't actually have the opportunity to see him again until Father's Day. Which was just, June, and I arranged it with Mom and them to do a FaceTime from Vancouver. And by this time, everybody knew about the baby. They didn't really talk about it with Dad so much. So we asked him if they could tell, if he could tell us what special thing was happening with Fatima and I. He said, "Well, they're having a baby." And we all celebrated because, this meant he still knew it and he remembered it all that time. And, that was the last time I spoke to Dad. And unfortunately, he will miss the birth of our baby, but just the fact that he remembered it means a lot to me. He lived a very good life. And I'm so happy that you've all come here and celebrated with us today. Thank you.